Good evening, everyone who's joining us across from India. Good morning to all of our, participants who are joining across us from the United States itself. And we will be discussing about internships for teens. Really about work, learn, stand out early as possible in this whole application journey. So I'm really excited to really bring you this topic today, which is about turning your academic curiosity into real evidence. Evidence colleges can see, mentors can vouch for, and aspects that you could be really proud to publish. So, over the next 1 hour, I'll give all the grades from ninth to 12th a clear step by step playbook of a type on how to identify the right opportunities, understand why those opportunities are important to you, reach out in the right way, even in situations where you don't may have connections, and then deliver the real work that translates into an impact that can be measured: dashboards, briefs, prototypes, and eventually interviews, or content that moves a metric. So we'll connect every piece to admissions as well. How does this really form part of your activities list? Where do the letters of recommendations in terms of those feedbacks from your mentors may come across as an internship? How does this form part of your supplementary essays, your personal statement? So we will be looking across at all of that, and how time all, and how all of this can be also worked across from a grade 11 to 12 calendar as well, without really burning it out. You leave today with also a 30-day action plan. So that's something that you'll get right end of this presentation today. So that would be case ready, 1 week pilot structure, virtual options across time zones, and a simple tracker so you always know your next move. The goal is simple: start building proof that you operate beyond your classroom, that you have taken the knowledge from your courses and have seen a practical implementation around it as well. So that's the whole objective of today's session. Before I move across into the various aspects of, let's say, how does this connect into admissions and how do we really get into the internships, I would just like to get to know a little bit about the audience that has joined me across today. So I'm just quickly launching this poll of what is the current grade that you are studying in. So if you could just, select an option right from grade 8 and below to grade 12, it'll be giving me a good understanding of the population. Right. So with the votes coming, we do see the maximum representation coming across grade 11, closely followed by kids from grade 9th and 10th. They are also students that have noted down grade 8 and below. I think, getting too close to the admission cycle, not a lot of kids have joined us across from grade 12. The bulk of population does look across in grade 11th, grade 9th and 10th. That's where majority of the kids are. So that's really interesting. All of you kids in these grades, it's very important for you to understand your current situation with internships. I think there will be a 3 second kind of lag in my video currently. I'll just request all of you just to hold on. I'm switching on the right now. Moving on to the next poll. Okay, what's happening? Yeah. So yeah, Kanushi, can you hear me?
Yes, I
Kanushi,
can hear.
am I?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, so I just said there was going to be lag. Now, just coming back after the current grade, want to just understand which are the majors that majority of the students would be interested in. I have just launched that poll now. Right. So we do have a good amount of STEM students, majority coming in from engineering. There's a good amount from medicine as well, pure sciences. Majority of these fields, as I would be, telling to the students that have joined us across, you have or you are looking at fields that are highly practical in base, specifically your engineering, and they're normally called your applied sciences any which ways. So this session for all of those students becomes even more so important. Right. So I would just then request to move on to the next poll, which is just to quickly understand from the kids that how many do you even have a LinkedIn account as of now? Because once you get into this whole understanding of looking for internships, LinkedIn is a very solid resource. It's a very good way to create connections. So it's really important for us to also understand that how many kids do actually are operating on LinkedIn. I do see majority of you are not, and that can be the reason that, since many of the kids today are in grade 9th and 8th and 10th as well, haven't moved in terms for an internship. But one of my suggestions to all of those students who do not have a LinkedIn account now is to really look at getting yourself started. We do have a lot of sessions that we just conduct in terms of helping you get your LinkedIn started. We could also share you a lot of newsletters itself that will give you a lot of good information on this area. But if you'd be moving towards this internship area, very important for all of those students that do not have a LinkedIn account are definitely opening one as soon as possible. Now, just a couple of more polls just to understand, the countries that a lot of kids are interested in. Now, how does this really matter in terms of internships as well? When you're looking at, let's suppose, the UK application, they want to see students that have got a practical experience in the majors that you would be. USA, the internship comes with a different kind of understanding. It's not to just say that that's the area that you would be interning and specializing in, thus you have done an internship, but it goes on to show that endeavor beyond the class, a very large part of the discussion today itself that we'll be looking across at. When it comes to countries like Australia and Canada, it's again the same thought process as UK, that if you're looking at a specific major, what is the practical experience that you've also generated behind that specific area? So I see majority of the focus is towards USA, so we will be sticking more in terms of explaining how this work goes beyond your classroom. And all the UK kids, what you could be seeing this description today is that how do you take your declared major interest and show it to the admission officer that you have gone way beyond just looking at that from a, let's say, a subject perspective, but much more into practicalities as well. So with that, I am coming now to the end of my polls, and we will be now starting with the presentation itself. But before I move on to the detailed aspects of internship, let me just introduce you the organization hosting the webinar today, Let's Unbound. So Let's Unbound began with a focus on building, empowering elementary and middle school students with STEM, life skills, and mentorship. Now, as these students progressed to high school, they started seeking college admissions guidance, and that's where we listened. We evolved our services to seamlessly integrate the storytelling part through application into our already well-established mentoring programs. Now, by combining personalized learning, skill development, and strategic admission support, guide students right from their early academic years to top global universities. We have impacted 4,000 plus students across 5 countries, delivering more than 125 hours of expert mentoring. Our commitment to excellence has earned us a 4.9 out of a 5 global rating. We are really proud to have partnered with organizations as Harvard Students Agencies, Arizona State University Prep Digital in the past, where we have ensured that students receive world-class educational experience. So at Let's Unbound, we don't just prepare students for, let's say, an entrance exam or just for the admissions. We really prepare them for that undergraduation life and life beyond your studies and education in terms of really trying to create the perfect kind of personality that should be required for any of these top university admissions. The people that have really put in the vision behind our organization, the founders, the visionaries, Amol on your left, he's a serial entrepreneur and education visionary with experiences at Tata and Exceed, India's largest school edtech platform. Amol has helped scale impactful educational solutions across 2,000 schools in 6 countries, impacting over 250,000 students. He's really known for his ability to blend business thinking with on-ground realities and has been instrumental in helping startups from IIT Bombay and beyond succeed in this whole education space. On your right, you have Nishant. We call him Professor Nishant. He's a mentor, he's an educator. He's the brains behind many of the learning pathways that we constantly share with our students. With 14 plus years of experience across academia, across industry, he has counseled more than 1,000 students. He's designed curriculum solutions right from K-12 to executive MBA program. He's an alumnus of SP Jan, a rated teacher and proud mentor of change under Atal Innovation Mission Niti. So that's more across with our founders. Quick introduction about myself as well. The person who would be conducting, the presentation it's today. I have got my experiences within consultancy for a decade plus across industries as banking, education. I've worked with organizations as Citibank, Standard Charter, Jaguar Land Rover. Within the education space, I've worked with Crimson Education and Addict Education. And that's my real experience when it comes to helping students and counseling them with their admissions abroad. So now with the introductions of the organizations done, just to quickly run you through with the approach that we'll be using today in our session. We would be firstly starting across with the introduction in which we'll be looking at the narrative of US admissions. We'll be looking at the applications structure, the common application platform itself, the weightages that an admission officer would be attaching to it. And then we'll move into the internships, that why do they actually matter? Where can you find these internships, the outreach program, the cold email template that I was talking to you about. And then I'll give you a good introduction of a lot of good internships that are currently available, which are virtual in nature, which you guys can apply from any part of the world. And many of them are just starting now in the next month by October. So just stay tuned at least till that stage when I could, hand you over all of these courses. And then on our third part, we'll be looking at the approach. I'll be sharing you a 30-day action plan in which you can get yourself started in terms of trying to find the right kind of an internship. And then we will move on to an overall student journey, students trying to get admission abroad. And then we will look into the preparation timeline. We will then see a couple of stories from our past where students have made it into top universities. And then we will conclude, as we always do, by sharing a lot of good resources with you and giving you more understanding how you could stay connected with us on the YouTube platform, on a WhatsApp platform, and also through a lot of good newsletters that we constantly share. Now, without further ado, let's move into the topic of today. But before I introduce, let's say, just the internships, it's very important for you and specifically those students who are looking at a US admission. And I see the majority of the population here again are students looking for a US admit. It's important for you to understand what is an admission officer typically looking for in an application. Once you understand that and what are the information that you're going to be giving, you will get the complete understanding where does this internship form its part, which is very, very important for you to understand. It's not just important to do internships. It's important to understand why are you doing them? How are you going to represent them? How is an internship really going to help you in this whole admission cycle itself? Which again, if you guys will all remember, is your primary objective. So now coming back to this whole thing, what are US admission officers really looking for? So they look for this well lopsided profile. I'll give you an overall description, follow it up with the reason. Now, what is this profile? Well lopsided. You could look at it graphically by this letter T, where you've got this vertical stroke. Vertical stroke is the place where the student can show a lot of hours of engagement. The student can show a lot of enthusiasm. He can show a lot of character building. It doesn't really mean that it is a very strong winning area, but it is a very strong personality connect area, this vertical stroke. And along with that, they have got a lot of participatory activities. One of the common myths and misconceptions about the US admission is that you need to have a well-rounded profile, which is not true. Well-rounded means that every activity that you are doing is up to the same level. While in reality, what USA is looking for are specific areas of interest coupled by a lot of participation areas. Now, why does a US admission officer look at admissions in this way? One of those key reasons can be that within USA, and it's one of the only systems globally, that you can have this opportunity not to declare the major that you'd be studying in USA and apply as a profile. Now, to have an equal judgment of every profile, they don't make the selection as UK does, because within UK, it is mandatory to declare a major. Within UK, if you're talking about if you're applying for engineering, you only talk about engineering, you only talk about sciences and STEM. Within USA, regardless what you're applying for, you should be talking about your profile. You should be identifying these various vertical strokes. You may be applying for computer sciences, but you may be fantastic at sports. You may be fantastic at art. You may be fantastic at music. And one of those vertical strokes, even for your application in computer science, can be for all of these activities. And this is where we call US looks for a well lopsided profile in which you have got participations in different areas and you have got a mastery in a specific. And that specific one does not need to be connected to your major. It can be from any place. If I would have been speaking for UK in this case scenario, I would have said, if you're applying for computer science, only talk about computer science, only talk about physics, computer science, mathematics, things and aspects that is related to the degree that you're studying. And then it's no longer about your overall profile, or as you would see on the screen now, US is saying a well lopsided profile. And just a quick information again on there, how this one aspect of your idea of not declaring a major affects the process. Within USA, you do not have major examinations. You may be applying for for economics. Another student may be applying for computer sciences. A third student may be applying for a maths degree. All three of them may be giving SAT, right? So there's no different exam for the different degree that you're applying, as a lot of you guys may be accustomed for India. Also, UK follows the same system. For the major that you're applying, there's going to be a different entrance exam. So quickly closing across with the slide, major declaration is not mandatory. Entrance exam is fixed in terms of USA. They are looking at your overall profile that can be connected, not connected to the specific major you're studying. Now, how do you give all of this information across to the admission officer? I'll be showing you one of the most popular platforms within USA. There are also different platforms. We'll not be able to cover them across today because, our focus has to go back to internships immediately once we have covered this. So the first academic part about your whole common application is your SAT score, your grade 12 score, which is largely a predictive grade. It's not the final grade by the time that you're applying. Then you've got your transcripts from grade 9 till 11th. And then you may have your English proficiency test for those students who are not on an IB or an IGCSE board, may have to give your IELTS and TOEFLs for specific universities. All of these different, information that you put in your application, we call it, bundled unto academics. Beyond that, what you will also be then writing across are 10 activities that you have been doing since grade 9 to grade 12 by the portion that you're applying. Remember, all within USA, your common application only restricts you to talk high school activities. High school within USA starts from grade 9 and beyond. So grades, your results from ninth and beyond in terms of academics, your activities, let's say non-school related, which can be sports, music, arts, almost anything that you've been doing since grade 9 till grade 12 would be noted down here. You need to get 10 of them. You'd be defining them in terms of the hours that you've been doing. You'd be defining them in the grades that you have been doing. And this, as you would be able to predict, is one of the areas where your internship can be noted down. So if you access a lot of different common applications, you'd see students talk about really in-depth, technical, great internships under this activity area. So for all of those students, firstly asking, how does your application connect to these internship? So this is the place where you would be firstly, stating out the internship that you have done. Now, on from your 10 activities to the essays that you'd be submitting, you have a common application, personal statement, or a common application essay. This common document will be going to all of your 10, 12, 15, or to 20 applications that you'll be putting across. So this personal statement is not university specific, it is common application specific. This is also another place where you could be speaking about the experiences, the learnings that you may have pulled out for any from of your internships. Moving on from this one essay, the other set of essays are college specific. So dependent on the college that you're applying, they'll be giving you a couple of essays to select from. Normally, you'd be writing 2 to 3 essays per university. And this is also another forum where your internships can be a very useful fit, where you could be speaking about that doing this internship could you gave you this specific realization, and that really gives you or puts you in the right space to be joining this university. So that's how your internships can also help you till this stage. The fourth stage, 2 letters of recommendation. Out of these 2 letters of recommendation, one can be a recommendation from the mentor of your internship itself. So this is a very no-brainer, very direct thing of how letters of recommendations and your internships do have a very strong connect. Lastly, in terms of interviews, again, very normal thing to realize that you can speak at a good length about your the learnings that you would have gotten from your internships at this interview level. So this is the whole common application, the documents that you submit, looking at the application from your perspective. Now, quickly, just to turn it around and to give you a quick understanding, how does an admission officer now look at your application? So you got 40% in terms of academics. If you'd be remembering back on this first column here, all of these different activities, this is just 40% of this whole application process. Where SAT, ACT has got 15%, your predictive grade 12 scores will have another 15%. Your academic grades and TOEFLs, your grades from 9 till 11th and your TOEFL score will add the last 10%. And that is the whole 40% journey if you're looking at a top college. So, getting a 1600, getting a 42, 43 over a 45, or let's say a 99 or a 98%, or any of these top grades, along with the same kind of grades from 9th till 11th, only puts you 40% through with this whole journey. The next 30% are your extracurricular and leadership activities, which are academic and non-academic in nature. And if you can do an internship which is closely connected to, let's say, the academic interest you have, very purposefully said, not the major that you're applying for, the academic interest that you have, if you could connect an internship to that area that also connects to your core resources, this 30% really starts to become justified. So when you're trying to look at this 30%, your internships automatically become a very, very strong aspect. And if you look at the top 30% itself, the common application 30%, the personal statements, the essays, the letters of recommendation, all of these activities, the LOR is a very direct connect of you getting a recommendation from your mentor and having that weighted across as well. And if you see 60% of this whole application journey towards a top US college are non-school academic activities. So again, doing any of these things coupled with a research project, coupled with a summer program, with courses and competition is how you create the academic part of those extracurriculars that you see at the bottom, the academic extracurriculars. And non-academic can be obviously anywhere, sports, music, arts, and all of this together creates that whole 60% bulk of the reason why an admission officer will be selecting you. So again, this internship becomes really so important because it's one activity that can be used in two parts of this 30%. It can form part of your extracurriculars and it can definitely form part of your top 30% in terms of a letter of recommendation being mentioned in essays and personal statements that really adds more personality dynamic about you. So that's really to tell you the importance of, let's say, the internship from the common application process from the US process. If I'd be looking in terms from the UK process, they look at super curricular activities, which are activities that are extremely in line with the degree that you are studying. So doing an internship, those students that are here joining us across for medicine today, that internship becomes very important for your UK application because it tells the admission officer that you've gone beyond this 40%. And in that case, you have 70%, which is being focused at these academic activities any which ways. So you doing these internships, the medical students really tell admissions officer that you have looked at this degree beyond just a course, or let's suppose, as I sometimes like to, put across in a very jokingly fashion, that you have looked beyond Dr. House, right? So you have seen real world, and it's not just the series that has really propelled you towards this medical application. Now, having put this behind us, let's start to move into the whole topic for today in terms of internships. So from search to cold email to impact, here how, let's say students from grade 9 to grade 12 can secure admissions, they can secure a strong profile and turn outcomes into really admission advantages. So now moving on to the first topic that we'll be looking across in terms of admissions, it is why, the why part, right? So this is the anchors. These are the three pillars that I'll be really talking across initially. We'll be going into each individual pillar itself, but first, just to introduce you to them all, academic purpose, they turn classes into, let's say, a solvable problem, whether you explore new fields or go deeper in one. You come away with evidence, with brief, with a dashboard, with, at times prototype, an interview summary that shows growth in thinking and skill alike. So that one academic purpose is a very important strong pillar. The second one is that initiative. So an internship is largely seen as something that no one really assigned you. You identify targets, you craft an outreach, you purpose a whole scope, and then you deliver it on schedule without specific grades or points that are getting added onto your IB score or that is getting added onto your CBSE score. So that's visible drive beyond classroom, and it reads strongly in your application itself. So that initiative that a student takes by finding that internship is something that these university applications are very strongly looking at. Thirdly, it is mentorship. So you'd be meeting a manager, you'd be meeting a person working in the industry, a founder, people investing in these areas who guide the next steps when earned and become and once you really earn them, they become credible voices as well through those strong letters of recommendations and codes that I'm also talking about. So everything from this slide maps to pillars slide, let's say three from this point onwards, will unpack your academic purpose, the first pillar. And then slide 4 from now would be really showing the initiative part end to end. And the slide 5th from now, I'll just be talking in terms of mentorship. So we'll break down all of these pillars one by one, starting across firstly with academic preparation. So, it really has two modes to it. Both, are valuable. Early on, when I talk about, let's say, grades from 9th to 10, lean into exploration. So run 2 or 3 short, well-scoped stints that shadow, let's say, a clinician, if you're looking in that area, clean a public data set, let's say, interview a product manager in that different kind of a degree, draft a one-page market scan, or, and then eventually write a quick reflection. What have I learned? What surprised me? What will I try to take next? So your overall understanding in terms of selecting an internship in grade 9 or 10 would always be that I have done a little bit of exploration in this area. Do I have the right kind of interest to take this forward? So you're really here just to shadow, just to understand, just to explore. Now, by grade in 11th or 12th, you want to pivot to the depth. And this is for those students who are looking at two kind of different internships. So select one focus placement for, let's say, 6 to 12 weeks with really defined deliverables, right? Either you're looking at a prototype, you're looking at a brief, you're looking at a research that may come across, but you should be looking at something that is extremely tangible and very important for students that are here in grade 11th and 12th and you're looking for an internship. Always go back to the courses that you have already studied. Try to find across from those courses, how can I take it into sense. And what am I meaning by the courses? And that's the third, pointer that I'm now getting to. So we've seen the ninth and the 10th, we've seen the 11th and the 12th depth. Now I'm really trying to map it to your curriculum. So by courses, I'm not just meaning your IB or your extended SAO, TOK, let's say for the IB kids. Oh, I'm not just talking about your subjects in CBSE or A levels. I'm also talking about the courses that you may be doing in terms of course era, or you may be learning externally how to code. Take all of that knowledge, try to contact, for example, a startup and try to create an internship in which you could practically use all of these different activities. So eventually what happens by, this in this academic journey of an internship, you should be having measurable skill outcomes. So either you have came out by understanding, various tools, various methods, you learning a program, using it in a very practical situation, showing across how it really made an impact in the real world. You should also be then showcasing your skills that you have developed in terms of communication, in terms of teamwork, in terms of real problem solving. So that's how I would, typically put across your overall academic purpose with depth and exploration. Just now to go a little bit, in depth, by also I wanted to, let's say, go in at ninth and 10th and 11th and 12th in a little bit more detail, seeing that we do have a good amount of students which are specifically coming from ninth and 11th. So kids that have joined me across for grade 9 today, one of my suggestions would be try to run curiosity sprints, try 2 to 3 different fields in 2 to 3 week burst, doing shadowing experiences, doing micro projects, try informational interviews. So key and while you're doing all of these activities, keep a short log with you, with links, with understanding, with takeaways that you could constantly take. That since I'm doing this shadowing project, since I'm doing this micro project, am I really enjoying the activity of taking my theoretical knowledge from my courses, from my classroom into this practical world? When you move into grade 10, that's when you start to narrow down. So if you've done three, let's bring this down to one or two interest areas. Let's just do maximum of two. Let's drop out something saying, this is not something that really resonated with my personality. This is not something that I would really want to take further. It was good in the classroom. I was getting the right grades, but the practicality around that is not perfect. So you drop a little bit. You make a little bit of a lightweight portfolio in terms of breadth, and you start moving towards depth. Because see, eventually the internship that you'd be getting across in your grade 11th and 12th, those are your depth activities. And internship is not a breadth activity that you'd be going across. And so over the years from ninth to 10th to 11th, you're trying to really narrow down your different options. So for example, a student who's good at maths may love economics, may love computer science, may also love something, let's say, around applied sciences. Around grade 9, you try to explore all three areas. The student of mine currently is looking at astrophysics, the student is looking at economics, and the student is looking at computer science. Our target by next year is trying to drop either, let's say, your computer science or trying to drop across in terms of economics to understand which area they where we'd be going across into. So we move across in this way. Once we hit grade 11, that's when we commit to a depth project. So we agree on scope again. You look at deliverables, you should have a schedule bi-weekly check-ins, collect as much as feedback possible because those short feedbacks really help you create that right kind of letter of recommendation where you're constantly reminding the mentor above the kind of work that you're doing, the kind of representation that, as I would quote and unquote say, you would like to have in your letter of recommendation eventually. Finally, once you're in your grade 12 year, this is when you should be concluding with your internships, making sure that you are going back and connecting with your mentors, having the right connect with them. So you could really get that right kind of letter of recommendation from them and have a right kind of idea as well, how to integrate all of this learning experiences over the years in your complete, I would say, either the supplementary essays or even the personal statement. So that first pillar in terms of your academic scope, these are the two things that I'll be really talking about. How this activity grows from your grade 9 till your grade 11. How do you take your college, your classroom learning, your courses learning, your academic learning into that internship thing, and how you should be looking at very specific outcomes itself, because then those are the things that you will be really representing across in your application. Now, moving on to the next pillar itself, which is initiative, which is very important again, also for those students that are joining across today, looking for an application in terms of USA. So, how do you really show that drive beyond classroom? So, internship signals initiative because you're really building a runway for yourself. This is self initiative. No teacher assigns this. You find roles through, let's say, networking or cold outreach, and purpose a small way to help. That act of, let's say, starting is the first proof of initiative. Now, with the first aspect, again, the applied learning, the second part, sorry, the applied learning itself. You take ideas from the class, you look at stats, you look at coding, design, and then use them in real problems for real users themselves. That shift from theory to practice is what exactly colleges want to see about your learning. Moving on to the third point of ungraded accountability. So there's no test or points here as you would imagine. You deliver because you said you would deliver. Weekly progress without grades from a school student really shows that intrinsic motivation that all of these admission officers are looking across from. Moving on, your autonomy and scope. So you define the work, suggest a 1 week pilot, set the KPI, you plan a time, and then adapt when things are ambiguous. So that adult style of ownership is again what we are looking across from internships and eventually from your overall application. Moving on to this whole aspect of professional behaviors. So when you work an internship, when you operate like a teammate, when you do quick stand up, quick work for the team, when you do those short status emails, when you organize those documents, the sister SOPs, that really creates that right kind of indication to the admission officer that you are someone who's really reliable in the real teams. So there again is a very strong advantage, a very strong thing that you show in terms of initiative through your internships themselves. And then again, you can show across a good amount of visible impact. So always your internships are something that someone could see. It's like a brief, it's a dashboard or a prototype, which is paired with a simple metric like, for example, reduced report time by 30%. And that's a really good outreach, a really good achievement that one can show in terms of an internship. Lastly, it also does give you that external validation of this initiative that you have taken. Getting that letter of recommendation from any of your mentors really does show the right kind of work. Now, moving on to the third pillar, which is a very basic one in terms of mentorship. So, mentorship is, let's say, the multiplier in the first two pillars. First, try to find mentors who sit close to the work. Your day-to-day manager, a personal trainer in terms of a lab, a founder, or even an alumni in your target field. Next, try to earn trust as fast as possible. Try to come across as a person who's really coachable. Reply as promptly as possible. Deliver one quick win in a week that shows how serious you are towards this activity. Then try to set a very steady rhythm, a short agenda before each check in, and in a very concise recap afterwards with all of those decisions, with the blockers, and obviously the next step. Then continue showing impact with something visible, either a link, a screenshot, and one or two numbers, time saved, let's say interviews completed, or even accuracy improved. When you're ready, ask for the right kind of letter of recommendation. So share a one-page brag sheet with your projects written in it, with the metrics that you did within your internship, the strengths that you show, the deadlines that you match, the programs list that you completed. So offer this bullet point that they can adapt and really inbuilt into that letter of recommendation. Finally, always do remember, keep the bridge after the internship. One of the most important things that students forget about this whole mentorship part within internship is that you may be going for this letter of recommendation at a very late stage. So do always set up a timeline of sending periodic updates, being connected in terms of LinkedIn, having, also as much of connects personally, professionally, be going way beyond your internship has been completed. So, that's really how a short-term placement becomes a long-term advocacy and that's specific, credible, and strong when you go for that letter of recommendation eventually. Now, after looking at these three important pillars, I had said that we'll be also going into this whole aspect of trying to find out where do these internships typically hide. So your top ones, I normally say the ones that you really can find immediately are your LinkedIn. And with LinkedIn, as I say, that is your online resume. So try to optimize your headline, try to make that as explainable as possible. So for example, high school student, you could put the data plus writing, open to internships, add 3 to 4 lines about the skills that you have, the hours in week that you normally put into different activities, pin a featured work, put in one brief, have some kind of demos, try to put in as much as post possible. And once your profile starts to get ready, start searching in terms like high school internship, so student volunteering, shadowing program, remote virtual internship for high school students. That's when you'll start finding a lot of these internships, a lot of these programs that are already, existing out there, that are also being very much curated for high school students that are applying for admissions abroad. So when you find a fit, engage on the post first, then try to do that direct message. Don't try to first put that direct message and say, I found this content online. Try to engage first immediately at the content itself, because remember, that's the whole objective behind the person posting it, is to create that engagement. So it's very good to start off at that positive note, do a positive movement, engage on that post, and then move across in terms of that direct message. Now, the other kind of platforms that you could look across, these are the internship platforms themselves. So these are various websites, the various companies as well that would be willing to give you a good amount of exposure in different internships. We'll be sharing a lot of such internships today as well by the end of this section. So they really give you the good amount of understanding towards a specific area, towards a specific topic. You can find internships that are totally connected to the major that you'd be studying. So again, students who are looking at an admission towards UK, going in for one of these internships, finding something which is extremely major based, really becomes very advantageous for your overall application. And in terms of USA, always showing case that, this is what I've practically learned, this is what I've theoretically learned, and this is the practical implementation, really goes a far distance in trying to show that right kind of a profile and application. Right. Lastly, it is, I have put that first word there as more of a sarcasm, that unfair or innate advantage. What am I really meaning by this is your parents, your friends, parents, various different mentors around you, alumni, these are the fastest door openers. So what I tell every student is activate your parents. Activate your friends' parents, where you could find out that any of them are related to the field that you're studying. I would like to come across and do a very in-depth internship. Now, what am I really meaning? If you have a father in a degree that you're really aspiring for, ask your father, do you have any relationships within the startup world of that industry? Because that's the area where you could go for a 3 week, 4 week, 5 week internship and really curate it as per your earnings and understanding, which really curates an individual internship. And when it comes across to those topics that, it comes across as nepotism, for example, when you apply to USA, it's not seen that way. It is seen as legacy. So if your father is someone who's within the scope of sciences, what USA understands that your family has got a legacy in that area. So you will tend to do much better in that area and have much more, ability to get such kind of internship. So, that innate advantage, as I would say, or that networking that would be available around you is a very, very strong and good way to create internships. And one way, if you'd see, I have also put this kind of internship on the base of this pyramid. For the reason is these are the places where the strongest kind of internships are created, which are extremely, even if I'd say academic based, really shows that right kind of initiative where you can talk about that I, through my parents' connection, went and found out this internship opportunities and completed it in a specific way. Right now, moving on to the next part, how do you really prepare for this outreach program? So one of those first things that I was even speaking about in my previous slide was saying work on your LinkedIn. Try to polish your headline. Look how best you can define your personality in that about section. Try to pin 2 to 3 featured artifacts about you. Make sure that you on your resume you have this whole aspects about education, various skills and tools that you could use, projects that you have done with specific outcomes should be put across there, and specifically those outcomes that can be numerically defined. So just for example, reduced report time by 30%. That 30% becomes very important in trying to put across how authentic, how practical and impactful that specific activity has then become. Try to create a small portfolio. So each item should be getting a link. There should be one line context. You should be putting across results. So example, the GitHub script, or let's say a Canva one pager, or a short writing sample. So all of those different activities could serve as a portfolio of the internship that you have done. And then remember to create your 5 line bio that, really talks about this activity in the right way, and how you would be also, while you're applying for it, make sure that, that is being defined in the best perfect way. So, for example, how do you really show a 5 line bio? You start across by saying, see, now I'm a grade 10 student interested in either of these specific areas. For example, computer science. I've got skills and I have got, tool understandings of Python, Excel, Canva, and good at interviewing. The proof that you could show: built this project using Python, used this analysis via Excel, or showcased or created this, document through Excel. You then need to talk about your availability as well. You're a school student. Tell them, 4 to 6 hours of week you could remote and would prefer remote work, or you'd be available in by your presence as well. So do make sure that you put across that availability as well, and be making sure that you do have a good amount of questions ready once you do start across in terms of connecting with them and communicating with them. And then lastly, one of the most important things that you need to be thinking across while preparing, as I even said in the last slide, is look at your parent and your friends parents connection and alumni list. Right. So these are the most important things that you should be largely looking across while, preparing for your internship. Those are those things that I had thought I'll be sharing across with you in terms of telling you why these internships are specifically important. Now, just moving across and giving you a quick look at various global virtual internships that are available out there currently. So you could just have a quick look at your screen now. So here, this is a very, I would say, a concrete example of a structured virtual internship options for students from grade 9 till grade 12. The Gallimard Aerospace Nano Internship. It's really self-spaced and it runs for 5 weeks with a total commitment of 20 hours. And the next list starts at October 12th. So you could also use the QR code on the screen. You then would be getting more information, where you'd be able to select from 5 different tracks. You could move into aerospace engineering, astrophysics, mechatronics, coding, computer science for aerospace, maths and physics. So all of these different kind of activities would be available for you. And you could also look at the fees and the pricing and then make a specific judgment as per that. Now, moving across from aerospace and internship, this is one other opportunity that you could also use, which is structured in business and venture building internship, again designed for students from class 9 to 12. The host in this case is Farm Mint PTE Singapore. It's a venture backed cross-border B2B pharma marketplace connecting buyers to sellers globally. They supported by well-known investors, and the focus is how tech streamlines the pharmaceutical supply chain. So it will be an online cohort of about 20 students for approximately 4 weeks, 20 hours in total, with 4 live sessions. They're not really any prior skills that you would be required, and it's total open from grade 9 to 12. And again, the listing starts from grade, and the registration again ongoing. Do use the QR code to see the financials behind that you'd be having to pay for this specific internship itself. This is a good option for students who are looking at a degree around humanities. So, for government social impact projects, this is the public. So you could do a lot of work with the public sector as well. A good option again for students in grade 9 till grade 12. The organization is the office of this MLA Sikandra Rao, Uttar Pradesh. So she is currently represented by Birendra Singh Rana. The virtual program, or it's a cohort based with 30 students, 4 weeks, approximately 30 hours, with 4 live sessions. It's highly selective. Registration is via counselor recommendation, and it's listed at no cost, by the way, and it's an upcoming 15th July next year that you'd be largely preparing across for. Now, just moving across to a couple of more internships. So this is something across for economics and finance. This is the same organization that I was just talking to you about 2 slides ago. And this more is around an internship around economics and finance. Again, it's a 4 week program, 20 hours, and you'll be getting 4 live sessions. Registration list starts by October 12th. You could also use the QR code at the bottom to look at this one. This again is now for students who are looking at an internship around psychology, and well-being. It is again for internships for students is from grade 9 to 12. It's hosted by Atmosphere. It's a platform that blends neuroaesthetics with mental health to use art for emotional regulation, social connection, and personal growth. Again, it's a virtual cohort of 20 students, 4 hours, 4 weeks, and spread across into 20 hours with 4 live sessions. Again, there are no prior skills required, but again, students were extremely interested within art itself and looking at something within psychology. It's really a good kind of work that you'll be looking across at. Now, this is something again with creative arts and humanities. This is again hosted by the same organization, Atmosphere, which uses neuroaesthetics to explore how really art shapes cognition, emotions, and well-being. Right. So logistics here again, it's 15 students, 4 weeks, 30 hours divided across into 4 live sessions. No prior skills required. You could use the QR code at the bottom just to register for it. Moving on to the law internships that you could be doing. It's again at offer by Farm Mint, and it's the same kind of duration across 4 weeks, 30 hours, and 5 live sessions that you'll be going across at. This is an opportunity within biology and internship. I'll just leave the screen for you to take a quick QR screenshot if you are interested in this kind of internship. I have given you the understanding of the organization already in the previous slides. Right now, this is the last one for AI and machine learning and internship. So, this is again the same host company that again has, I've been putting out for all of the other internships as well, all approximately 36 hours, 6 weeks, and 6 live sessions that you'll be going through. You could use the QR code at the bottom to also try to register for this internship itself. Now, moving across to our approach and just to share across the 30-day plan that I spoke. So now, as I would say, all those students who wants to immediately take this whole activity in its extreme seriousness, treat the next month like a sprint with two outcomes, right? So secure an internship or minimum 1 week pilot you can extend, plus artifacts and mentor contacts. So your week one would be largely around setting the stage, polish a one-page resume or LinkedIn, add a tiny portfolio, 3 to 5 links, brief sample demo, build a target list of 20 organizations across startups, local groups, alumni, parent connects, and then block 2 45-minute slots each week. In your week two, you'll be moving across to warming up the system, looking at your draft, engage thoroughly on your socials, on your LinkedIn's, draft 5 personalized emails, using the key and the log system in terms of understanding that what are they looking for and what is the solution that you can provide for. Moving on to the third aspect is while you're looking at those internships, start trying to book those calls, trying to get in connection with those people. So then you are giving across all of that information and tracking them. Lastly, week four is about the final nudge, getting the final activity and confirming the start date of how you'll be going through. So this is a quick look of the overall 30-day action plan that we share. Once we have done this session, do register on a one-on-one session where we could give you the complete information and understanding of this 30-day plan itself. Now, normally the students that we start working with, we have seen that majority of the kids do not have more understanding than the average 7 career options that are typically out there anyways. Parents are normally struggling with complex university applications, and that's a trend that we normally see globally. And normally, what we say, and I always do say, that the pathway to your universities are very individualized. So the process that needs to be created along with it has to be extremely individualized up to this level, in which we take the inputs in terms of personality traits through psychometric test, through various sessions, and then we move on to your college counseling, skill building, help you in the complete application process, and conclude with the visa and stay assist, where then eventually the output from our input then becomes an admission into the specific university that you're looking for. This is an overall preparation timeline for students that work with us. When kids join us in ninth or 10th or 11th, we start by understanding their candidacy, understanding their interest, understanding, what kind of courses and competitions that they would like to do. And then in your grade 11th and 12th, and as I've said in this presentation itself, is the time when we are doing your most important internships. The exploratory internships that you do in grade 9th and 10th then help you decide the subjects that you need to select in grade 11, the capstone projects that you need to work on. We also then help students in grade 11th within the standardized testing. For UK, this testing moves on till grade 12. Within grade 12, we start with the personalized personal statements. We work on your essays. We do the closure of activities. So by the time of grade 12, early June, early in October, November, you can make your US application and then move on to your UK applications, which do start by October for medicine and Oxybridge, and the rest of the applications move in January itself. Right. So that's the overall timeline that we work with kids. These are the three pillars that we divide all of our activities into, right from academics and test prep to profile building to admission prep itself. Now, quickly to show you a couple of success stories, of the students that we have worked in the past. This is to quickly show you, a kid that got admitted with Dartmouth College and a score of 1550. He did very well on the essay competition, a national level basketball player. He founded an NGO, solo single, performed at charity events, and contributed his voice to the school choir. And those was that was the complete activity package and that strong profile and accomplishment that earned him that place at Dartmouth University. Right now, the resources to quickly show you across. So every week we do conduct a different session on different aspects around admissions. So do join us across again next weekend as well on Saturday, where we'll be taking a complete different topic when it comes across to admissions. Now you could use the QR code on the bottom of your screen, or I'll also be putting across this link that all of you could use to join in this newsletters and get as much as information about admissions abroad. Now, moving on to the podcasts and the community links as well. So you could join on board with us with this WhatsApp QR code, and the QR code on your left side will be taking you across to the YouTube video that we do put across again, explaining various different aspects across on admissions. This is a quick SAT diagnostic test that all of you guys could take, and we will be willing to share you those whole analysis. Right now, this is the last slide for today with our presentation. So if you're really interested in that 30-day plan, you want to take or get a good, better understanding of your admissions abroad. So you could do this last QR code scan on your screen, and we would be then connecting with you shortly and be conducting a one-on-one session where we would give you a better understanding on a very personalized note about this activity. Right, so that's more about for the session today. If there are any questions, I'll be just looking at the chat section, and then if there aren't, we'll be concluding across for today. Right. So now I'm just concluding. I don't see a couple of questions being posted on the chat. So anyone who's interested in taking a one-on-one session with us to understand these internship on a personal level, please use the QR code on your screen now to register for that one session with us. Thank you.